Stop lying to yourself. Deep down you already know the truth. When someone pulls away from you and your instinct is to chase them, you've already surrendered the game. The second you start running after what refuses to stay, you step out of power into weakness. You trade your dignity for a chance at scraps. And here's the brutal reality. You cannot beg someone into respecting you. You cannot chase someone into loving you. The moment you start chasing, you prove that your value depends on their attention, and nothing screams desperation louder than that. Think about it. Every time you call when they stop answering, every time you wait around hoping they'll change their mind, every time you adjust your standards just to keep them close. That's not strength. That's not leadership. That's not masculinity. That's you handing over your self-respect on a silver platter. And no matter how much you try to justify it, the truth is always the same. Chasing kills attraction, and it destroys respect. Masculine energy thrives on certainty, not on begging. Masculine men don't run after anything that slips away. They know that chasing only shows one thing, that they've placed someone else on a pedestal higher than themselves. But when you do that, you collapse everything that makes you powerful. You tell the world that your validation isn't self-sourced, that it comes from whether or not someone chooses you. And that is why people lose interest in the one who chases, because desperation is repulsive, and it exposes insecurity. Here's a hard truth that most men can't stomach. When you chase, you instantly become replaceable. You become the kind of man who says, "Oh, my worth isn't solid. It depends on whether you accept me or not." And once you radiate that kind of weakness, the game is over. No one values what is too easily available. No one respects what bends, folds, and runs just to be chosen. The second you start chasing, you're already forgotten in their mind. There's something you must understand. The world does not reward those who beg. It rewards those who command presence. And presence is not built by chasing. It's built by holding ground, by standing firm, by saying through your silence, "I don't need you to validate me." Masculine men disappear because disappearing is the purest form of strength. It's not running away. It's not hiding. It's the ability to walk away from disrespect and never look back. It's the ability to say, "I know my worth, and I will not waste it on someone who doesn't see it." The weak cling to what's slipping away. The strong let it go without hesitation. Chasing is fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of being forgotten. But disappearing comes from power. Power rooted in knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall with anyone's presence in your life. Power in knowing that nothing you lose can ever take away from who you are. And here's what no one tells you. When you stop chasing and start disappearing, you shift everything. Suddenly, the silence you create speaks louder than your words ever could. It forces others to confront what they've lost. It forces them to realize that you will not crawl, you will not beg, you will not lower yourself. That silence demands respect, even from those who once took you for granted. And even if it doesn't bring them back, it leaves you standing tall, unbroken, untouchable. This is the lesson that separates the men who rise from the men who collapse. The man who chases wastes his life begging for crumbs. The man who disappears commands the room without saying a word. Which one do you want to be? The choice is brutal, but it's clear. You can either keep lying to yourself, keep running after what's slipping away, keep erasing your own power, or you can finally decide to stop chasing, to walk away, and to reclaim the strength you were meant to carry. Because in the end, masculine men don't chase. They disappear. And the ones who disappear always come out stronger, sharper, and more respected than the ones who beg to stay. Masculine men don't chase because chasing is weakness. Chasing is a declaration of need. It's standing in front of someone with your hands out, silently begging for their validation. When you chase, you're not pursuing love. You're exposing a void inside yourself. You're screaming without words, "I need you more than I need me." And the moment you send that signal, respect evaporates. Attraction dies. Value disappears. You may think chasing shows commitment, shows persistence, shows effort. That's the lie you've been feeding yourself to avoid facing the truth. Chasing doesn't prove strength, it proves desperation. Real strength doesn't scramble for attention. Real strength doesn't beg for recognition. Real strength doesn't bow to rejection. Chasing is not masculine, it's a betrayal of masculinity. It's giving away your crown, placing it on someone else's head, and calling it loyalty. Understand this, People don't value what they don't have to earn. They don't respect what is always waiting at their feet. The one who chases places himself beneath the one who runs, and that dynamic poisons everything. You can't command respect from someone who knows you will never walk away. You can't demand value when you've already devalued yourself by refusing to hold your ground. Think about the energy of a man who doesn't chase. He is steady. He is certain. He doesn't waste time running after what doesn't want to stay. He knows that by lowering himself, he only loses more. So instead of chasing, he holds still. Instead of begging, he stands tall. Instead of fighting for scraps, he lets go and trusts that abundance is on his side. That is why masculine men don't chase. They understand that respect is earned through presence, not through pursuit. The hard truth is this: the second you chase, you've confessed that you lack options. You've admitted that your world revolves around the person who's pulling away. You've revealed that without them, you don't know who you are. And that is why they lose interest. Because nobody admires a man who's lost himself. Nobody looks up to the man who runs after love like a starving dog chasing a bone. They don't see strength in that. They see weakness. They see insecurity. They see a man who's forgotten his own value. Masculine men know better. They know that chasing doesn't win hearts. It crushes them. They know that the more they run, the further the other person will go. Because desperation creates distance, clinging suffocates, and begging for attention never brings respect. It destroys it. That's why they disappear. Because disappearing is not weakness, it's the refusal to play a losing game. It's the quiet, powerful statement that says, "And I do not need to run after anyone to prove who I am." This mindset is a shift. Masculine men understand that chasing is emotional suicide. They know that the man who runs after someone hands over his crown. He says, "Take my power, take my dignity, take my time, just don't leave me." But if someone is willing to walk away, why should you hand them everything? Why should you sell your soul for someone who already decided you weren't worth staying for? That's insanity. That's weakness. That's the behavior of someone who doesn't know his own value. You need to understand this. Being replaceable isn't about who you are, it's about how you act. You can be strong, smart, capable, and worthy, but the second you chase, none of that matters. Because chasing tells the other person, "And I don't believe in myself. I need you to make me feel valuable." And if you don't believe in yourself, why would they? If you don't respect yourself, why should they respect you? The irony is this: when you disappear instead of chasing, you create scarcity. Scarcity creates value. People respect what they might lose. They desire what isn't always available. But when you chase, you're the opposite of scarce. You're too available, too eager, too desperate. You're confirming that if they leave, you'll still come crawling back. That makes you replaceable in an instant, because no one fears losing what they know will always be there. So ask yourself this: do you want to be the man who proves his worth through begging, or the man who proves his worth by walking away? One man loses everything chasing what's slipping through his fingers. The other man disappears and forces the world to realize his absence. One man proves he's replaceable. The other man proves he's unforgettable. The choice is yours. But make no mistake, the moment you chase, you've already chosen. You've chosen weakness. You've chosen desperation. You've chosen to hand over your power. And once you do that, respect doesn't just fade, it dies. A real man doesn't compete for what's already his. If someone values him, there is no contest. If someone respects him, there is no chase. When a man is truly masculine, he doesn't run after what slips away because he knows one unshakable truth: what is meant for him will stay, and what leaves was never his to begin with. Chasing is a declaration of weakness. Competing for attention is a confession that you've already lost. Because if you have to fight to be chosen, you've already lowered yourself into a position where you're not the prize. You're the option. And the second you make yourself an option, you've erased everything that makes you valuable. Masculine men don't play that game. They don't kneel at the feet of someone who can't decide whether to value them. They walk away and let indecision destroy itself. Masculine energy doesn't fight for scraps. It doesn't beg for leftovers. It doesn't cling to what's slipping away. Instead, it recognizes abundance. It understands that the world is not running out of respect, loyalty, or love. What runs out is a man's self-respect when he keeps chasing where he's not valued. Masculine men know this, and that's why they never chase. They replace. They don't say, "Please come back." They say, "Go if you want, I'll find better." And the truth is, they always do. Here's what most men don't realize. Chasing doesn't build attraction, it kills it. The harder you run, the faster they pull away. Because people instinctively devalue what's too eager, too available, too desperate. When you chase, you create imbalance. You're handing over all the control. You're showing that their presence matters more than your dignity. But masculine men never make that trade. They understand that dignity is priceless. Lose it once and you never get it back. Think about this. Would a king beg his subjects to stay? Would a lion chase after prey that refuses to be caught? No. The king sits on his throne and loyalty comes to him. The lion waits in patience because he knows his power guarantees abundance. Masculine men live by the same law. They don't exhaust themselves chasing. They hold their ground because ground held is respect earned. Here's another hard truth. The man who chases signals to the world that he doesn't believe in his own abundance. He's saying, I can't do better than this. I can't find someone who respects me more. This is all I deserve. That's pathetic. And the world responds accordingly. But the man who disappears sends a different message. He says, I will never fight for a place where I'm not honored. I will never compete for someone who doesn't see me. I am irreplaceable, and if you don't recognize it, someone else will. That message demands respect. It demands attention. It demands loyalty. Masculine men don't chase, because chasing is the habit of men who live in scarcity. Men who believe there's only one chance, one person, one opportunity, and if they lose it, they'll never find it again. But masculine men know abundance is real. They know the world is overflowing with opportunity, overflowing with relationships, overflowing with people who will see and respect their value. That's why they walk away without hesitation, because they know walking away never means losing, it means making room for better. The shift happens when you realize this. You don't have to compete for respect. You don't have to chase loyalty. You don't have to beg for love. If it's real, it stays. If it's false, it fades. And the fading is a blessing, not a curse. Because the faster something fake leaves your life, the sooner something real can take its place. So stop fighting battles that prove nothing. Stop running after what was never yours. Stop wasting your life trying to win over those who don't see your worth. Masculine men don't compete for attention. They command it. They don't chase validation, they embody it. They don't cling to disrespect. They cut it off and move forward. That's what makes them powerful. That's what makes them unforgettable. And here's the bottom line. The man who chases always loses because he lowers himself. The man who disappears always wins because he chooses himself. Understand this. When you disappear, you create silence. And silence is not weakness, it's power. Silence cuts deeper than words. It leaves a mark louder than arguments, louder than begging, louder than any attempt to convince someone to stay. Disappearing is not about giving up. It's about refusing to fight a battle that strips away your dignity. It's about stepping back and letting your absence do the talking. People underestimate the force of silence because they're addicted to noise. They think attention keeps them in control. They believe if they keep talking, keep pushing, keep running, they'll win someone back. But the truth is, noise is weakness. Noise is desperation. Silence, on the other hand, is terrifying. It forces the other person to sit in the emptiness they created. It forces them to wonder, to question, to realize what they've lost. When you disappear, you're not chasing, you're not begging, you're not lowering yourself. You, making the strongest move possible. You're saying, I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to fight for scraps. If I'm not valued, I'll walk away. That kind of silence is heavy. It hangs in the air like a weight that can't be ignored. And the person on the other side will feel it, even if they don't admit it. Here's the harsh reality. People don't respect what never leaves. They take it for granted. They assume it will always be there. But the moment it disappears, the moment it vanishes into silence, the human mind panics. Because loss hits harder than presence. Scarcity creates value. And nothing creates scarcity like disappearing without a fight. Think about it. The man who keeps chasing communicates one message: I'll always be here, no matter how you treat me. That message kills respect. It kills desire. It kills any chance of being taken seriously. But the man who disappears communicates something far more powerful. I don't tolerate disrespect. I don't compete for validation. I don't waste time convincing anyone of my worth. And that message demands respect, even from those who once dismissed him. Silence has a way of flipping the script. Suddenly it's not you who's questioning your value, it's them. It's not you begging for answers, it's them searching for closure. It's not you chasing after validation, it's them haunted by the absence of what they lost. That is the power of disappearing. That is why masculine men use silence as their weapon. Here's a truth most men avoid. If you always stay, no one fears losing you. If you always explain, no one listens to you. If you always chase, no one respects you. But if you disappear, if you step into silence, if you remove your presence completely, you create fear. You create curiosity. So let this truth burn into your mind. Silence is not emptiness. Disappearing is not weakness. Walking away is not defeat. It is the ultimate statement of strength. It is proof that your worth doesn't depend on being chosen. It depends on your ability to choose yourself. When you disappear, you don't just leave, you elevate. You separate yourself from weakness and step fully into power. And the world feels it, always. People don't respect what you chase. That's the truth you've been avoiding. The more you run after something, the more it runs from you. The more you beg for attention, the less valuable you appear. It's simple psychology. What is abundant is ignored, and what is scarce is desired. The moment you make yourself too available, you destroy your own value. And the moment you disappear, you create scarcity. Scarcity is what people respect. Scarcity is what people fear losing. This is why disappearing is far more powerful than chasing. When you disappear, you break the cycle of desperation. You stop proving yourself. You stop pleading. You stop lowering your standards. Instead, you create a void. That void forces others to face the reality of your absence. And in that absence, they realize the weight of your presence. Suddenly, the silence you've created screams louder than all the words you could ever say. Chasing flips the power dynamic against you. It tells the other person, "You're the prize. I'm the pursuer. My worth depends on you choosing me." That confession kills attraction. It destroys respect. But disappearing flips it back. When you walk away without hesitation, you communicate the exact opposite, center. This is why disappearing is not weakness, it's power. Because disappearing is proof that you don't need anyone to confirm your value. It's proof that you can walk away and still remain whole. It's proof that you would rather lose someone else than lose yourself. That is the highest form of strength. The man who can disappear without flinching is the man who cannot be broken. You have to understand something critical. When you chase, you're giving someone else the authority to decide your value. You're saying, you get to decide if I'm enough. You get to decide if I matter. But when you disappear, you take that authority back. You stand on the foundation of your own identity, unmoved by whether someone accepts you or not. That's the kind of strength that commands respect, even in silence. And here's the brutal truth. No one respects a man who begs for value. No one admires a man who depends on others to feel important. That kind of man is always replaceable, because the world sees him as disposable. Why? Because he sees himself that way first. But the man who disappears is unforgettable. Not because he shouts, not because he fights, but because he refuses to break his own code, because he refuses to discount his worth. Disappearing is not about manipulation. It's not about making someone miss you. It's about showing yourself that your worth is not negotiable. It's about living in a way that says, I don't need you to complete me. I don't need you to define me. I don't need you to validate me. That kind of energy is rare. And because it's rare, it's respected. Look at the difference. The man who chases says, he needs you to see me, otherwise I feel like nothing. The man who disappears says, even if you walk away, I remain everything I was. Which one do you think commands respect? Which one do you think gets remembered? Which one do you think lives free instead of enslaved to the opinions of others? You see, the shift isn't about tactics. It isn't about playing hard to get. It isn't about disappearing as some trick to make someone crawl back. The shift is about identity. It's about stepping into a place where your value is solid no matter who stays or who leaves. It's about knowing that no one can add to or subtract from your worth. That's why masculine men disappear, because their value is proven by their ability to walk away. Ask yourself, how much of your life have you wasted trying to prove yourself to people who never truly saw you? How much energy have you drained chasing validation that only made you weaker? How many times have you handed your crown to someone else, only to end up empty? You don't need to keep living like that. You don't need to keep begging. You don't need to keep chasing. The moment you choose disappearance over desperation, everything shifts. You stand taller. You breathe deeper. You stop apologizing for existing. You start living like a man who doesn't need permission to be valuable. And that's the moment the world starts treating you differently. That's the moment people start noticing. That's the moment your presence stops being ordinary and starts being unforgettable. So burn this into your mind. Disappearing isn't retreat, it's strength. It isn't weakness, it's proof of self-respect. It isn't giving up, it's rising above. When you disappear, you are declaring to the world, I am not for sale. I am not negotiable. I am not replaceable. And whether they admit it or not, they will respect it. They will feel it. They will know it. Because in the end, your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's eyes. It depends on your ability to walk away from anything that tries to make you forget it.